If you are a data professional and lately you have been feeling a bit overwhelmed with everything that's happening around AI, or you're just unsure what your next move should be, this conversation is for you. Today, I'm not going to talk about tools, certifications, or what's trending this week. I want to talk about something deeper. What actually helps someone grow in their career while others with similar skills stay stuck? And to explore that, I have someone very special joining me today, Varsha Nimalendran. She leads a team of over 70 data professionals working on analytics, AI, and solving real business problems at scale. But what I really admire about Varsha is not just what she does at work, it is what she does outside work. She spends a lot of time giving back to the community, mentoring students, supporting women in tech, being part of diversity initiatives, and even contributing to non-profit work. If I sum it up, she is one true empathetic leader. And I think in today's AI driven world, that matters more than ever. In this conversation, we go deep into what really drives career growth, why some people move ahead faster than others, and what you can do starting today to position yourself better. This is not just another career discussion, it is something you might want to reflect on. Let's get started. Hi, Varsha. Welcome to Data Career Mastery. Glad to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you, Shankar. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me on the podcast. Really excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you. So before we get to your journey and what you have got to share with our data professionals, I wanted to mainly start with a question. This is a question like that I keep asking so many data leaders and who is in the leadership team to see how far they have come and what they have done. So I'll start with that question. Like, if someone had told you like 15 years ago that you will play this role today, what you are doing, so what would have surprised you the most?
I think what would have surprised me the most is the fact that I deal with so much on a day-to-day basis, on a weekly basis, and not just myself, but the entire workforce now currently. Considering where I started, and I have an actuarial and stats background, so I'm very, very familiar with machine learning, but with where we are in terms of AI and agents, I think that I would be really surprised to think of myself in a leadership position and with the tools that are currently available to just spin up a strategy within seconds. That would probably be the biggest surprise to me.
Very true. Why don't you just share briefly about yourself so audience get to know about what you are doing currently?
Yeah, sure. So currently I lead the data science and analytics practice at Endeavour Group. Just a disclaimer that throughout this podcast, my views and opinions are completely my own, not EDG's. But yeah, my world revolves around leading a really amazing powerhouse team of over 70 analysts, data scientists to build analytics solutions, BI solutions, ML, AI solutions into the fabric of our business at EDG. That's liquor and hotels. But my journey has been through various retail, consulting, financial services, insurance. So my day these days is less about writing code and actually building things, and it's more about thinking about the impact that my team has, uplifting my practice, equipping my team with the tools so that they can succeed in their squad missions. So strategically, I partner heavily with the heads of product and key stakeholders to kind of build a view of how we as a practice can support them, how we solve complex problems together. And that could mean upskilling or reskilling my team, as well as thinking about new tech or proofs of concept opportunities that we can work on for those business problems. And then just building on that, the capability building. So resourcing strategies. So do we want to hire perms or contractors, onshore, offshore? How do we hire for the capabilities as well as upskill is a big part of my role. Innovation, so monitoring what's happening in the market, attending conferences, understanding emerging tech trends, thinking about where Endeavour is in the journey and how we can kind of lead that curve, because we are a market leader at the moment. And so just thinking about our data journey and how we can continue to lead that. So that's kind of what my role currently involves. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exciting. So many things you're doing and it must be full on. So I
Yes.
can imagine how your typical week would look like. Because when you move to the leadership role, I keep hearing your week starts from Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening, because most of the individual contributors, our week typically starts Monday morning, 9 o'clock. So what you get excited about on Sunday evening typically? What pulls you to the next week, basically?
Yeah. So basically my calendar. So I look through my calendar, understand, I have everything color coded. So in red, I have things that are high level stakeholder engagements that I really need to heavily prepare for, or I need to support my team in preparing for. So that's kind of what pulls me into the week, just looking at where's the red. And so on a given week, I could be presenting to our senior leadership team. I could be meeting with heads of product. I could be meeting with some business stakeholders or some vendor partners. So it's kind of just preparing for those sessions. And thinking about, even if it's not in the coming week, what do I need from a team or a working group? So we have multiple working groups that I'm across, either contributing or leading. And how do we set up for those sessions so that we're able to influence the outcome and get the outcome that we want, whether that's rolling out new technology and getting the SLT endorsement for the new technology, or deciding on hiring for a specific skill set. Yeah. So that's kind of how my Sunday starts. Just looking at my calendar and thinking about what do I need to prepare for and how do I stagger that preparation throughout the week.
Yeah, that's amazing. I've been following you in LinkedIn as well. You're leading 70 plus team members. It's a big team. Outside that, you also participate in other forums and you continuously contribute, share your thoughts, and you are attending a lot of different communities and forums. If I approach your network and ask them what comes to your mind if you think of Varsha, what would they say? One thing about you.
Yeah, so I would say I've done this exercise with my chapter leads. My chapter leads report into me and they lead the chapters, the analytics and data science chapters within my practice. And they've described me as the empathetic leader. So I think that's kind of become my personal brand, intentionally or unintentionally. Very early on, like, honed my listening skills and being able to relate to people. I don't know, maybe it would be better to be known for delivering really fast or having high impact solutions, but I am remembered for being like the humanizing leader. And I think that especially in the age of AI, that is something of a strength. Again, I don't know if that's what I want to be known for. It's kind of something that was an unintentional personal branding. Especially given that, like you said, I'm part of different diversity networks. So I'm a mentor with STEM sisters, female university students of color who study in the STEM disciplines. I'm an ambassador for AI for Diversity. I'm part of Women in Digital and Women in AI groups, and recently joined the board of directors for a not-for-profit called This Life Cambodia. So that focuses on children, women, families who are part of unhealthy life cycles and opportunities for a better life for them. So yeah, I think that a lot of what I do outside of work, it's about giving back to the community and especially people of color and women. But yeah, so having done the exercise, I know that I'm known as the empathetic leader.
No, you're spot on, because in the AI world, more and more things are getting automated. Human skills are definitely going to stand out. I'm glad you
hope so.
shared, and that's your personal branding. And now I know the secret of your energy, like where you are getting the energy from, just by giving back. It's amazing. You are dealing with a lot of data scientists and data analysts and different kind of data professionals in your day-to-day work. I'm sure you will have different type of people or team members you will be dealing with. Most of them will be technically capable and they are doing a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
But you would have seen like high performing team members as well as someone probably getting stuck with their career. What is the main thing that you have observed which pulls people back, or let people stagnate in their career?
Yeah, I think a big thing is not having that drive or that growth mindset. So for no matter what discipline I've managed, whether that's analyst, data scientist, app developers, engineers, people who have that drive to just do better themselves, not competing against anyone else. Just, I want to deliver to the best of my capability. I want to continue to grow as a person, grow my skill set. I want to think about the impact that I have. I'm going to do this on the side or do this in my spare time so that I can learn better skills and position myself better. I think that growth mindset, that thinking about your impact and how you can lean into outside of traditional role box, I guess, the role constraints to actually grow professionally. I think that those are the kinds of people who have really succeeded, whether as an individual contributor or into leadership positions. They're able to make connections between different things faster. So when they're problem solving, they can see, oh, this happened over here and it's happening over here as well. So you know what? Maybe we can use a similar solution. Or, oh, you know what? That looks like that problem is caused by this underlying issue that I observed when I was walking around the store. And because they're so curious about their problem statements, their customers, they're exploring as much as possible. This person had a business problem, and I, over the weekend or last night, I tried to vibe code a solution, and it's not perfect. It's not even close to perfect, but this is something that I've built that is really exciting, and I think I'm very proud of my work, and I think it's really an exciting potential solution to the business problem that they've got. So it's not about being sure of yourself. It's not about like complete perfect confidence that you're an excellent person with excellent skills. It's about trying to constantly better yourself and better the people around you, better the organization that you're working for. Yeah, that growth mindset, I would say, is what I've seen in people who are the best employees, colleagues, managers, leaders. Yeah.
Curiosity is the key.
Absolutely.
As per the Pareto principle, which is applicable across everywhere, I'm sure 80% of the work is done by 20% of the team. Although someone who you mentioned, like, walking across the store and observing something and taking that ownership or accountability and then taking it to the next level, and also coming up with something outside their day-to-day responsibilities. They can easily say, no, I'm just doing my job. I'm given a problem, I'm just working on it, or I'm working on a project. This is my responsibility, without drawing that line in the sand if somebody is taking the additional responsibility and coming back.
Yeah.
Is definitely a good quality and a rare one it's going to be. But as a leader or as a manager, what kind of platforms or team culture will need to be created so that people come and try? They are not afraid of failures or mistakes. Because a lot of time people, when I interact with them, they have that fear of failure. That what if I say something in the meeting or recommend a solution and people question on it? And I don't want to be vulnerable to the team. I just keep quiet and I do what is comfortable to me.
Yeah. So I would say that, like, you really touched on a key component that needs to exist for that growth mindset, Shankar, which is the psychological safety for people. And like I said, the goal is not to find a perfect solution or to present yourself perfectly or 100% confidence in the solution you're putting forward or the idea that you're putting forward. It's just being comfortable to put forward your thoughts and opinions and ideas and solutions. And a big part of that comes from the leadership and organization creating an environment of psychological safety and experimentation and innovation. And you talked about the Pareto principle of like 80% of people are maybe not that kind of people, and 20% of the people are doing 80% of the work, and they're really pushing themselves. I would say people who are showing up in their day job and they're doing a good job, but they're not kind of moving outside of their day job. I would say that those people, they would get great performance reviews when the company is doing well, right? So when the company is doing really well, someone's going, yep, these are the XYZ expectations of you and your role, and you're doing all of them. So fantastic. Well done. When the company is not doing well, when there are cost pressures, cost cutting pressures, redundancies, restructures, when there are strategic shifts and realignments, that's when that 20% is really important, because that other 80%, even if they're doing their job okay or doing their job well, it's not going to hit the mark as much because the organization as a whole is not hitting the mark. So if you're just doing your job okay, you're not you're not contributing to the value of the organization. You're not pushing the organization out of the slump, out of the recession, out of the bad performance cycle. So during when organizations are struggling is when you can really observe the difference, the gap between that 20% and the 80% of people. But I would say that it's really hard, because when organizations are in that environment of cost cutting, they are not fostering psychological safety or innovation or experimentation. They just want you to deliver fast and get the job done. And so it is, I completely understand when people feel that they can't go to a meeting and float ideas, they can't go to a meeting and share solutions, because that level of psychological safety hasn't been established. What I would say is, even no matter where the organization is, no matter what level of psychological safety the organization has created, what your team has created for you to operate in, you should feel empowered to be true to yourself. If there's something that you're passionate about, if you think that there's a solution, I think especially for people of color, especially for women, sometimes you feel like you can't float an idea because you feel like other people are talking. So I'm going to take a back step, and I'm going to let those people talk. They probably have better ideas than me. And that's very, very common feeling. I've 100% felt that many, many times. Continue to feel that often. But I think that the best ideas come when you just take a risk and step out of that. And it can be scary, but the fear goes down with practice. So I still remember very, very early on in my career, I used to be terrified of networking events and terrified of meetings with important stakeholders. And I think just the practice kind of gets you out of that headspace more than anything else. And that doesn't mean you need to change your personality. That doesn't mean you need to show up to a meeting and be the loudest person in the room or anything like that. You just need to be true to yourself. And if you have ideas, and you should consider yourself a valuable person, and you're in that room for a reason. You're in that position for a reason. So you should consider yourself valuable and put forward your ideas and solutions. You don't need to change your personality, but I think that even if that psychological safety doesn't exist, show up as you are and try and create that change. Provide feedback if your ideas are shot down in a disrespectful way, then provide feedback on that. Be the change to create that psychological safety.
Yeah. So that mental resilience is very important.
Yeah.
Yeah,
100%.
true. That comes basically from reassuring that I'm enough. I'm more
Yes.
than enough, and I will always be enough.
Yes.
That's really good one. But you briefly touched upon your early career. I had that in my mind, that if I ask you to divide your career into probably 3 different categories, how would you briefly summarize your career? I'm sure you are leading a bigger team now. You would have started as an individual contributor, and
Yes.
if you can just tell us about something.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my journey, like my undergrad studies were focused on maths, statistics. And so my initial corporate roles were kind of analyst type of roles. I think the turning point, even early in my career, was joining Capgemini Consulting. And so that's where I kind of cut my teeth on larger projects, focused on digital transformation, forecasting model projects for like large retailers, massive projects like master data management. And so it gave me a lot of confidence, because the clients that I served were really major retail, financial services, insurance clients. And so I felt that inherent value of they are paying, not me, Capgemini, enormous day rates for me to add value to their organization. So there must be something that I'm able to deliver. And so the early years were kind of very building my confidence, thinking about where do I want to go. And it was still really unsure about what role I want to play. I think the next phase, following my Capgemini role, I actually followed one of my leaders to CBA. And so he recruited me. I moved around many different analytics teams at CBA for over 5 years. So I supported home loans, personal loans, credit cards. I've supported operations, institutional banking, premier banking, risk. So I would say CBA was my transition phase into leadership. So that's where I first led a team. That's where I decided to do my MBA. And so it was kind of a time of growth and change and building my network, understanding where I actually wanted to take next steps, where I wanted to move. And that was also when COVID hit as well. So it was a lot of staying at home and thinking, what do I want to do with my time? Do I want to study? Where do I want to move around in the future. And then, of course, I joined Woolworths. So I think like the last few years have kind of been the more of the leadership roles and leading large teams. So at Woolies, I led large cross-functional squads. So it was after Agile was implemented. So the teams worked in squads, but it was before the time of practices and chapters and guilds. So I was the line manager of data analysts, data engineers, UX designers, application developers, product managers. So it was a really, really new world for me to mentor and line manage people whose skills were beyond, way surpassing my own skills. And so a lot of my one-on-ones would be, can you show me how you did this? Or I want to learn more about how you completed this or built this. And so it was very humbling to lead such an intelligent team of people at Woolworths. And because it was my first kind of experience with larger teams, something that one of the leaders at Woolies told me was that statistically, if you lead large teams, you're going to have issues with the team, whether that's people issues or like funding blocks or issues with the products that you're building. Like statistically, you are going to have problems. So be very comfortable with having problems. And so I think previously when I was leading smaller teams at CBA, it kind of was like all consuming. It was like, I have to solve this, and it feels like the world is going to break if you don't solve this problem. And it's really not, right? Like you're in a small function in a company that's making billions or millions. It's not rocket science. It's not, you're not saving lives. Or I wasn't anyway. I wasn't saving lives. So it was, it feels all consuming. But I think the shift to larger teams, it really made me take a step back and think how I actually want to show up and be more regulated at work. I think, be more regulated in solving problems and not being too personally affected, not losing sleep over things that were happening at work. Yeah, so my time at Woolies was the first time I actually owned an analytics portfolio as well. So that was multiple product pillars, including operations, buying, pricing, seasonal reporting. And so like I oversaw ML and analytics applications products and a portfolio upwards of $10 million. So focusing on everything from forecasting demand and pricing to next best action for store managers. I think that like Woolies was really the place where I saw the theoretical parts of my MBA kind of come to life, because it was building things as well as leading large teams. Yeah, that was Woolies. And then of course I moved to Endeavour following that. In my current role, I don't own products anymore. So I am more focused on the capability and the influence and strategy, planning ahead for what the squads need for us to deliver and how my team is best set up to do that. And I think that like this point in my career, I'm just learning to lead through change. So leading through restructures, leading through the AI revolution, leading through redundancies because we're in a poor economic climate. I think this is that's kind of the phase that I'm currently in, leading through adversity and change.
Wow, well said. Intention with intensity. So because every point in time you have self-reflection and you had intentions to take your career to shape it up.
So I would say that one thing that I've always done that I recommend, advise anyone who reports to me, anyone that I mentor to do is I always look at job boards. Is that my dream role? That anything could be your dream role, right? And you don't know what your dream role could be. So you need to kind of seek that inspiration. And that inspiration for me comes from job boards, whether it's LinkedIn or Seek. But I scroll through and I understand, okay, so if this is my dream role, this is where I currently am. This is the gap to get there. These are the skills that I need to build. This is the experience that I need to get to that dream role position. And I have been told that only a little bit like neurotic kind of people have that kind of I want this specific role in 5 years time. But I think that you spend so much of your time at work that you should be intentional about it. And like especially for first generation, second generation, migrant families, women, there's just so much that has generationally gone into your career, right? Whether that's you or your parents moving to a different country, setting themselves up, setting up their home in a different country so that you have the opportunities to succeed, whether it's taking some time away from family and your family care obligations, whether that's parents or children, in order to focus on your career. The opportunity cost of focusing on your career is so high that if you're not intentional about it, then it doesn't respect everything that everyone has kind of put in for you. I think especially for people of color and migrants, there are generations of people who have like sacrificed. Whether you know it or not, people have sacrificed to get you to this position, right? Of education or opportunity. And so it's really important to do something meaningful with that opportunity. And so being really intentional, almost neurotic about what are the next steps you want to take and how you want, what success looks like for you, because success looks different for everyone. What does success look like for you? And being really intentional about that success is what I would advise.
Totally agree. Because it's a completely different perspective to put like how many people have sacrificed
Exactly.
for our career to, come this far. And also, on an average, 1/3 of the life anyhow is spent on work.
Yes.
So it should be worth the time. If we have to start all over from beginning, what is one thing that you would do completely different?
I think that one thing that I would do completely differently is change my habits, like coming from the perspective of a South Asian woman who's a mother of 2 young kids. I'm at that stage in my life where I'm thinking about how I devote time to my career, how I devote time to upskilling myself and exploring opportunities. And I think a big part of that is setting up habits. So one of the very, very inspirational leaders that I've spoken to, who I've connected with, is Aruna Patam. Okay. And what she's told me, and it's really kind of stayed with me, is she's built habits over years of, on the weekend, she wakes up at 6 a.m. and she focuses on her development, or she focuses on how she's going to strategize for the week, whether that's creating her personal brand or creating content, or whether that's contributing to business development for the companies that she's working for. And I feel that that's something that I would do differently. I feel like I have become somewhat complacent and I need to kind of switch back into the habits. I feel like when you don't have family obligations, whether that's parents or children, it's really, you don't need to have habits because you have free time to be like, oh, Saturday afternoon, I'm going to do this. I'm going to learn this new skill. But when you do have a lot more time constraints, lifestyle time constraints, you need to form habits of, on Friday mornings, I'm going to block out my calendar to do XYZ. On Saturday mornings, I'm going to wake up early before the rest of my family wakes up and do this. Or I'm going to ask my partner for a commitment to take the kids out of the house so I can focus on my upskilling. So I think that the habits is what I would do differently. I've kind of been, I've been like, in the past, obviously I had the time to just do things as interest struck me. I'd be like, that's interesting. I'm going to learn more about it. But now I might think, oh, that's interesting. And then I have to go feed the kids. So just building out the time, blocking out time and building the habit of actually following up is what I would do differently.
Yeah, the technology is rapidly evolving and every day new things are coming up. So what do you want to share, just pigeonholing all different kind of details at different level? Because sometimes when you talk to your data science team, you'll have to probably talk in their language and you have to be still on top of everything. When you talk to leadership team, it's a different skill set altogether, right?
Yeah. So I think a big thing is what I touched on, but blocking out your calendar. So you don't necessarily have to block it out, but you need to change your focus from being the person who is doing the actual building to thinking about what is the impact of it. When you're too busy delivering, that you don't have the time to think about what your next step looks like, what kind of brand that you're building within your organization, outside of your organization. And so you may become a bottleneck for projects because you haven't kind of set up situations where things can be scalable. You maybe haven't thought about how you want to intentionally add value in your role to your organization. And so I would say that it's a big part of it is really just allocating that time to build out your skills and consider what kind of impact that you want to have. And a lot of that, like I've been given feedback myself that like I may be doing some things on the side, but that's not visible. within my organization. So it may not even be thinking about how you create an impact. It might not be thinking about how you allocate time to strategy, but it might be how do you become more visible doing these things? Do you share things with your colleagues? Do you share things with your leaders to be like, hey, I exist. I did this thing. I delivered this really cool thing, by the way. And so that's one thing. I think another thing is considering even within an individual contributor role, before you get to that leader role, you can think about how you motivate and enable others to deliver. So consider how you can mentor other people, pass on your skills, and think about how you can multiply the benefits from each piece of work that you do. So think about, is there learnings that you can share with another squad or another pillar, or someone that you're mentoring? Can you share the way that you built something, because they can also do the same thing somewhere else? So not really gatekeeping, but sharing that knowledge, because that knowledge builds your community, builds your team, it builds your brand as well. So don't gatekeep knowledge, but share it more widely. And I think the other thing is really consider your non-technical skill sets. So stakeholder engagement, communication, storytelling, commercial assessment. So things that I would say is very technical people have a very narrow focus or myopic focus sometimes about we have to do this execution to the absolute maximum technical capability. And they don't have that commercial lens of if we do that, it's going to cost XYZ and it's going to take another 3 months. But what is the uplift in value or benefit? It's only going to be 0.2%. So is that really worth it? I think often people kind of get stuck into the perfection of we want to deliver to the ultimate model accuracy possible, when uplifting that model's accuracy is not going to deliver incremental benefit. Additionally, when you're telling a story to stakeholders, when you're engaging with stakeholders, think about what is the impact of what you've built? What is the impact to them? What is important to that person? Because when you're telling a story about I built this using this platform, using this tool, using this code, and then I actually had to go away and fix it because I had a bug on Tuesday, and then I had to ask for support from a senior data scientist, and they helped me to debug the code. The stakeholder doesn't care about any of that. It's just really thinking about this is the stakeholder's business problem. This is what they're trying to solve. And what you're building out is going to provide a recommendation or advice for them or support their business case. So really that stakeholder engagement and storytelling. So a lot of that comes with confidence, like we talked about, like being aware of the value that you bring to the room and being confident, and that comes with practice. But the storytelling, that element is like a very trainable skill, and you don't need like real world practice to do that. A lot of that comes from preparation. So thinking about if you're going to present something, how can you break that down into 3 dot points, 3 key messages that you want to pass on? What is the main influence or outcome that you want out of a given meeting, whether that's with your manager or with a stakeholder or with a colleague? What are the outcomes that you want? So practicing an elevator pitch for your project or a risk that you're facing, whatever it is, practice boiling down your business problem or your project into something really simple, 3 dot points.
So do you think getting a mentor within the team, someone who you are reporting to or at that level, help?
Yeah, so I would say some of them do. I would say that in the past, throughout my career, I've had really great mentors, and then mentors who are great, but I haven't got a good chemistry with them, because it's a two-way relationship, right? You need to have that chemistry where they understand where you need to develop. They're not afraid to give you that feedback. They're not afraid to kind of push you. And so it's very hard to find that within your team, within an organization. So I would say that like spend a lot of time trying to connect with people, talking to different people, whether that's inside your organization or outside, because a mentor does help to kind of practice a lot of these skills, to have someone give you feedback on your blind spots, things that you didn't realize was an issue. You didn't realize that you need to improve your skills there, but they can give you that feedback. I think the other thing is, like what I mentioned about looking at job boards and identifying what your dream job looks like, or where you would want to go, or even if you're not looking at dream job, oh, that's an interesting skill that I want to develop. But then you can consider, because AI exists, there are so many tools, you could just go to Gemini or Claude and say, create a learning plan for me to improve my storytelling. And because you can speak into the app, you don't even have to type it, right? So it can be a very natural thing. You can ask Gemini, how many times did I say or during this conversation? How would you refine my storytelling? Or provide me with 3 free courses offered by top universities or tertiary education providers on storytelling? Or what are 3 ways that I can improve my way of commercial assessment right now? So I would say that like having a mentor really helps because it gives you that real-time feedback, but it's not a limitation at all.
I totally understand. It's all about leveraging. So because
Yes.
we now live in abundant world,
Yes,
there is plenty of
exactly.
information. So it's about definitely mentorship will help
Of
because
course.
it can reduce the learning curve and also the time spent on.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. So that's a good one to reflect on. I think I'll be going through again and again, picking up a lot of clues because you have touched upon so many important aspects. So we definitely need a series to discuss everything in length.
Sure.
I'm just thinking from the data professional, mainly the mid-career data professional perspective. I myself as a mid-career professional, I look at LinkedIn, I get overwhelmed with the changes that are happening, and the AI is going to come and change the way we live and the way we code and everything. You are building on the ground, you are building day to day, you are leveraging AI and building a lot of stuff. So what's actually happening in Australia, at least in top companies? What kind of use cases, if you can name 1 or 2 use cases that data professionals who are in that 80% of the companies where AI is still a dream can get some insight about?
Yeah, so I would say that a massive thing, a boost from AI has been like the speed to execute. So with the advent of vibe coding or coding co-pilots, people are able to build apps or build models or analyze data sets exponentially faster. So delivery is just exponentially faster. And even in strategic roles, you can query LLMs to understand what you should be doing or your function or department or company should be doing. So building out a strategy for your division based on that LLM's knowledge of history and publicly available information about your market, industry, competitors. So I would say major use cases are really coding assistance and vibe coding to build things that you've never built before, that you didn't expect that you could ever have the skills to build this. And then the strategic idea of you don't need an MBA, you don't need to work with a BCG or Bain because you have so much information at your fingertips that you can ask and then hone the results to build out a fully fledged strategy that you can then go and execute. So I would say those are the main use cases. And from a personal and professional standpoint, you can create agents to train you how to communicate your technical findings or coach you through conflict and situations of conflict. So really, you just have like endless tools at your disposal to be more effective at work, especially if you work in a white collar job. However, that does mean that if you're not using AI, then you're lagging. So you're part of the late majority. So really the AI shift, it's really kind of highlighting those who are already proactive, and it's really increasing the gap between them and that 80%, the people who are more complacent, relaxed about their careers. So it is really easy to kind of look on LinkedIn and be overwhelmed by this is happening and this is happening and this is happening, and I don't understand a lot of this. So I do see a lot of mid-career professionals kind of panicking because they feel like they don't have the skills that they need to keep up with the way that tech is going. And I think that people should stop reacting to the actual tool and the tech and then more react to the opportunity to upskill. So think about what it can do for you. And people who are afraid that they're going to have their jobs replaced by AI, that may or may not happen regardless of your fear, right? So whether you're afraid or not, that could happen, it could not happen. If you're frozen with fear or lack of understanding of the tools and tech, you're not going to move forward and learn how to use it. So my view is that like that feeling of panic, it can be self-affirming. And I completely understand, because I also feel that way very, very much. I feel like there's so much changing. I don't know how I'm going to keep up to date as a leader. I haven't been on tools for a long time, but I can see many leaders, my own leaders, vibe coding. And so I'm like thinking about what skills I need to develop. And I feel like I'm falling behind as well. But I think the fear is what keeps us behind. So you need to kind of think of it as an opportunity and switch that mindset. Even small steps to explore AI will support you better through the rest of your career and life. And like, I think just channel the frustration that you feel when older generations, parents or grandparents, struggle with what you consider basic tech. I think that's going to be us in the future if we don't take those small steps now. Yeah, so that's what I would say. I completely feel that same panic, but yeah, it's in the panic is what's going to, it's like the catch-22. Feeling that panic will hold you back, and then you'll be self-affirming.
So basically, from moving from fear-driven to excitement-driven, or
exactly,
purpose-driven.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah. I'll ask you this way. For example, I'm a data analyst, and I used to build all traditional reports and dashboards using Power BI or Tableau, but your company is moving towards AI and you are creating a position, and I don't have any of those additional skills, that AI skills. If I want to apply, what is the one technical thing that you would expect me to be aware of? Like what is one thing that I need to focus on?
Yeah. So I would say that I would hire for mindset, like we spoke before. The fundamentals of solving business problems hasn't changed despite AI. So you still need to understand the business problem. A lot of business problems are human-centered still. So what does the user journey look like? What does the customer journey look like? What are the points of friction, pain points that they face? And AI and agents need context to carry out their tasks, to give you the insights that you need. So you are the context. So you need to be able to really ask those curious questions, investigate, understand the business problem completely. So being proactive, understanding the business problem, being able to map out problems and problem solving, that is going to be really invaluable. Like it's going to be hugely valuable. The other thing I would say is, if I'm hiring for a role and I've asked for things like GCP exposure, that there are obviously like for like replacements or substitutes, other cloud platforms that you can use for free. There are many, or you can pay a nominal fee to have some exposure to. If you haven't built an application before, you can pay a very nominal fee to get some premium support from AI and vibe code it. Have something hosted, build applications in your spare time. So I don't think there's anything stopping people. I think there is obviously a difference building things in a corporate context, because you have to follow standards and guardrails. Productionization of assets is a lot more rigorous than building something on your own. But I think that having that mindset of I can build anything, I can learn anything, and my core skill is being able to interrogate business problems and understand the root cause of something, I think that will win always. Yeah, I would hire someone who's more interested and curious and wants to learn any day over someone who has all the technical certifications, but they're just disengaged.
What I understand from you is like one thing, curiosity, and also some hands-on without giving any excuse that no, in my current role, I'm not exposed to any AI. But outside that, have I built something on my own, even if it is smaller, even if it's not enterprise grade? Have I done something that I can showcase it to you or talk about? And also the second thing that I'm getting from your expectation is basically, how do I sum up what I have done so far? Like context. That's an interesting and important perspective. I'm sure because Gemini or ChatGPT or any LLM is going to assist in creating something, but what do I feed to that? And how do I sum up what I have done so far? What kind of work did I do and how did it add value? Reflecting on that and then getting my head around what I have done so far and sum it up.
Yeah, I think you've really hit the nail on the head, Shankar, because a lot of leadership roles, or when you move industries or move roles, you're not hired so much for your technical skill set as for the context that you bring. So if you're hired into a C-suite, you're probably not being hired because you know Python. You're being hired because you've done some digital transformation in a different industry or different company or something like that. And so that context is what you bring. You bring that really quick understanding. When someone's speaking about this pain point, you can go, oh, yep, I can connect the dots. I've done something like that, or I've heard something similar to that before. That is a lot more valuable. And I guess that's why we're seeing the really unfortunate trend of reduced grad programs, reduced roles for juniors, because they don't have that context, right? They don't have the context and experience that they bring to a role. So it's sort of like, am I going to have to train you up and give you the context as much as I would do to an agent? Can an agent do for me what a grad would do? I think that building your context, building your ability to problem solve, get to the depth of solutions is a key skill.
Thanks for taking time and sharing. If someone is still looking for a practical advice, what they should be focusing on, and you have definitely touched upon in different angle. But if you want to just summarize it, someone want to put 5 hours a week, for example, for the next 3 months or 4 months to just uplift their career, what is one thing that you would ask them to focus on?
So I think a big part of it you mentioned actually, Shankar, is the mentorship. But it's not only mentorship, but it's building your network, because you need to understand what others in your community, in your similar kind of role or in your leadership is working on. What are they working on? How are they lifting their skill sets? What are their pain points? So if they're in a different department, if they're in operations or marketing or finance, what are their pain points? Is there anything that you can brainstorm together so it's like a mutually beneficial relationship? I think it's because in an organization you would connect with so many different people. You could find the smallest thing to be like, oh, that's really interesting. We have that in common. I would really love to get coffee, or maybe we can have a virtual coffee. I'd love to have your opinion or view on this. I think people are often very flattered if someone says, I would love to have your view on this, because it shows that you value their and respect their intelligence, their viewpoints. So building that strategic network is very helpful, because it makes you realize beyond your own world what is happening outside. What are the changes to your organization? What are the changes to skill set? How you can help other people, how they can help you. So that would be a major one, building the network. The other thing I would say is play with technology. So allocate the time to explore and create with new and emerging technology, so you can hone your skills and have a view of its strengths and limitations. So whether you're a leader or individual contributor, either learn how to build things or learn when your team is speaking to you about limitations of a tool or why something is not going to work or why something will really work, you have an idea as a leader to validate that. The other one I think I would say is the storytelling and communication. So we've talked about that already, but I would say take the most complex technical project that you've ever worked on in your current role or in your entire career, and practice explaining it to a non-technical person. So I when I first started working at CBA, there was one point where I was working late, and my great aunt, so she's almost like a grandmother to me, that I finished work when the branch closes and after we count all the cash. So she didn't realize that I worked in the head office. So someone like that who is non-technical and who is so removed from your world, try explaining to them your most technical projects in 2 minutes. Focus on the value of what you've delivered and not the method. So my grandma wouldn't really understand. She would have no idea what Python is. She wouldn't understand what a coding console is, moving something to production. But if I said that I changed the way that people in branch talk to customers, then that's something that she would understand. So practice that elevator pitch. And it's not limited to only stakeholder settings. So think about when you join a meeting or when you're running a meeting, practice setting that context, because so often, especially for technical people, and I do it myself very, very frequently, so I'm kind of pulling myself and reflecting on that as well. But joining a meeting with people who are technical, it's easy to just go, okay, so we did this, what worked, what didn't work. Pause and set that context, because the most powerful leaders that I've observed, they really hold that room to pause and hold the power to just say, I'm going to set the context. I'm going to set the lay of the land, and this is what we've done, and this is what I want from the meeting. And it's very different from just kind of jumping into the detail. There's a very big power difference between the two approaches. And I think the last thing I would say, Shankar, last piece of advice is to give back to your community. So join forums, mentor more junior people, support them with their resumes, write about your learnings, whether that's on LinkedIn or different blogs. I think teaching others, helping others, it really develops you as much as it develops them. It really helps you to clarify your own thinking, what your path looks like, and how you want to move forward, as well as giving back. And of course, I imagine many people have helped you throughout your journey. So it really is powerful to give back. So
very powerful tips, Varsha, because when I asked for a summary and next 3 to 4 months what they can focus on, I typically get, you learn prompt engineering and then you create something, but you started something completely different and very powerful, stepping out and connect with people, expand the network. And because one big advantage that I see connecting to other people is to see that I'm not alone. Like me, so many other people are also overwhelmed, and they're also figuring out how things are going to change and what's going to work and what's not going to work, what skills will stand and what skills will fade and all that. Definitely, that's a powerful one to start with. So if you ask me after you explained, I would say if you get 5 hours a week, spend 80% of the time connecting to people.
Yeah, I would say that that's really valuable, Shankar. Like, you live that, because we connected, and I see that you give back to the community so much. And I think that you're not someone who kind of just goes, click connect on LinkedIn. You actually build meaningful connections. And I think that you really live that. So it's something that I've definitely learned from you as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Varsha. Because I strongly believe people are connected with core values all the time, not because of the work or the skills. Thank you so much. So it's really a powerful session. I really enjoyed having a conversation with you, and you opened up a lot of things. Every time you say value, that's the thing that comes to my mind. Because when individual contributor step up and become a leader or a manager, they're always measured on the value, not the individual work. To build that value, a lot of work will need to go under. The perspective completely changes, not from what I have done, how many problems I faced, what is the final outcome, and how that is going to impact you as my sponsor or as my leader. That completely changes the conversation itself.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time and your valuable inputs.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me. I also really enjoyed the conversation. It was very thought-provoking and a lot of self-reflection as well.
Thank you, Varsha.
If there is one thing to take away from this conversation, it's this. Your career growth is not limited by your skills. It is limited by your mindset, your visibility, and your willingness to step forward. The professionals who move ahead are not the ones who know everything. They are the ones who stay curious, take ownership, and consistently step into discomfort to grow. And in the age of AI, this gap is only getting wider. So start small, stay intentional, and most importantly, back yourself. Because the future doesn't belong to the most skilled. It belongs to the most proactive. Stay curious, keep growing,